pleasure to welcome Pekka Pesonen to what I know is his first visit to the Ulster Farmers Union Annual General Meeting, but also welcome in what I believe is his first visit to Northern Ireland. Pekka is the Secretary General to COPA COGECA, the representative body for farm organisations across Farmers Union across Europe, member states, and it's made up of 60 organisations from the countries of the European Union and 36 partner organisations from other European countries such as Iceland, Norway, Switzerland and Turkey. And I have to tell you that if you think it's difficult at times to get consensus with our various sectoral groups and geographical interests here in Northern Ireland, Pekka will certainly be able to tell you a thing or two about difficulties of getting 60 organisations from 27 member states to agree on anything. He's originally from Finland, where he was State Secretary for the Finnish Ministry of Agriculture, but more recently much of his working life has been based in Brussels, and he took up his current position as Secretary General of COPA in 2006. He is an agricultural economist by profession, but we will not hold that against him, and he has considerable professional experience representing the interests of European farmers on a European and world stage. Could I now ask Pekka to come forward and address the Council?
President, thank you very much for your kind words, and I have to say that it's an honor to be here today. I have actually a written speech, but I thought that I should simplify some of the elements that I was planning to say, and this is very much in line with the simplification exercise that we all appreciate, especially for the new Commissioner Hogan's portfolio. It's really important for us, and I have to say that we have followed some of your discussions, especially when it comes to ecological focus area and how that would work for Northern Irish farmers and how you declare those famous hectares and parcels and to get the greening payment and avoid sanctions, whatever they are. This is really important for us also at European level. First of all, the CAP implementation is of crucial importance for us. And increasingly, our members are having doubts whether this actually could work. The problem is that we managed to come up with a reasonably acceptable budget for European Union for agricultural expenditure, despite the fact that it is going down in real terms. That's a fact, but that's more or less a fact for every other economic sector at the moment in Europe. And in this respect, we are not any worse or not any better than anybody else. But the point here is that how do we spend that money? And in this respect, I'm a bit skeptical, like most of our members. The so-called greening initiative that the European Commission came forward and was finally approved by the European Parliament and European Council actually is a huge addition to your administrative burden that you have to follow. And this takes resources out of your main core function, your main activity, which is food production. And this is especially the case also here in Northern Ireland. This is also the case in most parts of the EU. We are very much focusing on food production, making agriculture economically viable sector, and give better prospects to our young. I have 3 kids of my own, and I come from a 300-year-old family farm in my native Finland. I hope that some of those kids will once take over the farm, but I will not accept a situation where my kid, whoever it is out of the 3 or possibly next generation, would have to accept a lower level of income, lower level of living standard, lower ambition in his or her life as any other member of my family. And when I say his or her, this is increasingly the case. We have to make sure that it is not only the gentlemen, the men that are there, but also the families, and that we provide opportunities for employment also for the whole of the family, both spouses. And in this respect, we have, during these years that I have been able, and I have had the privilege to run the Secretariat of 50 strong staff in Brussels, we have had a slight change in the policy orientation. We are much more aggressive when it comes to investment, growth factor, employment, and market returns. But that means that we have to employ also the political tools and political initiatives that are not necessarily in line with what we did in the past. And when I come back to the CAP, I think the key element here is that how does the CAP enhance your ability to produce more food in a more sustainable manner? We have some serious doubts whether this is the case. Therefore, we have fully supported the Commissioner's initiative to simplify the CAP. And as you know, this is the main objective of the European Commission as a whole. And during this year already, Mr. Hogan has to come up with a package that is acceptable, and Mr. Juncker can present that in the name of agriculture and present that in a way that these are the simplification initiatives that the Commission is committed to. I'm afraid we have a problem when it comes to the timetable. We have fully supported the agricultural reform as such. It's a crucial element, it's a crucial part of our economics, it's important for us. But the reality is that we have a clear need for certain adjustments. And as you could imagine, the European Union bureaucrats and European Union, the legislative system is very slow. And the problem is that while we have implemented the first year of 2015 greening, we have already identified certain needs for simplification. We know that there is an increased risk of errors, and there is an increased risk for payments, break payments, not to be claimed. Commissioner Hogan has clearly stated that he will implement fully the derogation for the first 2 years, not to apply the 7.5% top-up penalty for non-compliance in green. That does not remove the 30% potentially eliminated from your paycheck. If there's a serious mistake, serious error, that 30% will be deducted. And from our perspective, it is completely unacceptable that this 30% is used as a hostage, especially when we haven't received all relevant information for farmers when they have to start implementing their cultivation plans for this year. And this is something that we've sent a letter to the Council Presidency today of. I signed the letter just before I left, and it was done in accordance to our internal discussion earlier today, this morning. That's why I was late, because I had to chair the meeting for our policy coordination amongst all those 26 full member states, member organizations at the moment. We agreed that especially the lack of information from the European Commission and member states authorities is not acceptable, especially in the light of farmers facing the possibility of losing the 30% part of their direct payment. This is simply not acceptable. And therefore, we have been also active vis-à-vis the Commission and the Council and the Parliament when it comes to initiatives on so-called quick fix, like what we see can be done already and implemented during this year. They are sometimes, let's say, controversial, or some of them are of a type that you don't, for instance, in Northern Ireland, you don't follow them. And one good example is the postponement of the deadline for the aid application that has been given to the member states to choose from, and the deadline is 15th of June. But my understanding is that you haven't followed this in Northern Ireland for your reasons, or this is not automatic what you do. Also, we have had some talks about the period of grace, as we call it, for the first 2 years, and we have pushed the European Commission to give in on the 30% part, especially if and when there's no full information available for farmers to fully implement the green. This is something that we haven't received yet. And the problem for us is that if this goes forward as it looks like, there is a good risk once again to to lose that 30%. And as you know very well, if the money gets unused, it remains in the European Commission, EU institutions. Most probably there will be another address for that money. And the good, please don't quote me, but then the good example, a good excuse would be the Juncker package, the 315 billion euro package for investment, strategic investment, where they desperately need more seed money from the EU policies. Agriculture has not yet been targeted. We have some doubts whether they would come up with some funny ideas later on. So therefore, we have to make it work. But in today's meeting, together with your representatives also from the NFU, and also my understanding is that they spoke also on your behalf, we discussed all the fine-tunings. And the clear, let's say, indication was that we really need to make it work, but at the same time, we need to make sure that those impossible requests or demands, requirements for farmers, we need to address. We need to push the European Commission and European institutions to come forward with alleviation to those requirements. And in this respect, we are grateful for your feedback when you have given your indications what sort of issues you have in Northern Ireland, what sort of hindrances you are facing when it comes to implementation of the CAP reform.